Okay, let's unpack this. In audio production today, things change so fast. Staying ahead isn't just nice, it's pretty much essential, right, for your career.
Absolutely. It moves at lightning speed.
And when you talk about big shifts in sound right now, Dolby Atmos is, well, it's the big one. It's really changing how we experience audio, creating these fully immersive sound worlds. And knowing how to mix in Atmos, it's quickly becoming a must-have skill if you're serious about pro mixing.
What's really fascinating, I think, is just how fast immersive audio went from being this, niche thing for high-end cinemas, maybe?
Right.
To being just standard, essential for the production pipeline now.
Yeah, totally.
So our mission today really is to give you a shortcut, a way to get your head around Dolby Atmos, specifically how you actually do it in Pro Tools Ultimate.
Okay.
And we're going to pull back the curtain on this really well-designed template. It's built to just streamline that whole Atmos mixing process.
A template, right. That sounds useful. Where's this info coming from?
Yeah, so we're drawing from a couple of key places. First, there's the practical stuff. Insights from a really seasoned Atmos mixer, someone who shares their workflow on YouTube.
Okay, someone actually doing it day to day.
Exactly. Delivering for the big streaming platforms. And second, we've got a detailed outline, sort of a blueprint, specifically for mastering Atmos inside Pro Tools Ultimate.
Gotcha.
Together, these really give you a clear path, a roadmap to getting this skill down, which is just so critical for how media gets delivered today.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture then. Why Atmos? And why is it everywhere right now? You seriously can't browse Netflix or Apple TV Plus without seeing that Atmos logo.
It's ubiquitous, yeah.
What's driving that?
Well, it's not just about the tech being cool, though it is cool. It's really about adoption by the big players, the streamers.
Like Netflix, Apple TV Plus, you mentioned, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus too, I guess.
Exactly. Those are the platforms setting the standard globally. They started mandating immersive audio delivery.
Ah, okay, so it's a requirement.
Pretty much. It cemented Atmos as the standard. So if you're doing pro audio, knowing Atmos isn't just a bonus skill anymore.
It's baseline.
It's rapidly becoming fundamental. Knowing stereo mixing was, years ago.
Yeah.
Your work just won't pass QC for a lot of big projects without it.
Right. You won't even get through the door without that deliverable.
Precisely. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it's all about giving the end user, the listener, a much better experience.
Yeah.
Something truly immersive.
Moving beyond just stereo or even 5.1.
Way beyond, yeah. This isn't just a small technical step up. It's a real shift in how we consume content, how we perceive it emotionally.
How so? What does it actually feel like?
Well, imagine you put on headphones that support it, or you have a compatible soundbar or home theater setup. Atmos doesn't just put sound around you. It puts you inside the sound. Individual sounds, a voice, a footstep, a musical element, they can be placed anywhere, all around you, even overhead.
That overhead element is key, isn't it?
It's a huge part of it. It creates this 3D bubble of sound.
Yeah.
And that just ramps up the realism, the emotional connection, massively.
Okay, I get that.
So for you, the learner listening right now, this isn't just about, adding a line to your CV.
Right.
It's about staying competitive, staying relevant. Because this is where media production is and where it's going. You risk getting left behind if you can't deliver immersive.
Makes sense. Okay, so Atmos is crucial. We get that. The next question is how? How do you actually do it, especially if you're just starting out?
Right.
Our sources point towards Pro Tools Ultimate specifically, and this internal Dolby Renderer feature.
Yes, exactly. Pro Tools Ultimate and its built-in renderer.
And this is where you said it gets really interesting. What are the big advantages there?
Oh, huge advantages. The internal renderer changes the game for your workflow. First big one, no external hardware needed.
Ah, okay, so no extra boxes.
None. No dedicated rendering units, no extra interfaces just for Atmos, no tangle of extra cables.
That alone sounds good. Less clutter.
Less clutter, lower cost to get started, definitely. But maybe even more important, fewer potential points of failure.
Right. Every box is something else that can go wrong.
Exactly.
Right.
Especially in a complex audio setup. Removing that potential headache, that's a massive win for just getting work done reliably.
Okay, so simplifying the setup is a big plus, but why put something complex like an Atmos renderer inside the software?
Well, that's the beauty of it. Integrating the Dolby Atmos production suite features natively. It creates this really seamless, powerful environment right inside Pro Tools.
So it all just works together smoothly.
Perfectly. You get maximum compatibility, stability, All the tools, all the parameters, they're right there. You're not bouncing between different apps or dealing with weird connection issues.
Yeah, that workflow friction can be a real killer.
Totally. You stay in one cohesive ecosystem. And critically, for actually mixing in 3D space, this internal renderer gives you amazing monitoring flexibility. We're talking true 7.1.4 monitoring.
Okay, 7.1.4. Break that down for us.
Sure. So the 7 is 7 surround speakers around you at ear level. Traditional surround, basically.
Okay.
The 0.1 is your LFE channel low-frequency effects. That's your subwoofer for all the deep bass and impact.
Right, the rumble.
The rumble, yeah. And the crucial part, the 0.4, is 4 overhead speakers. Speakers mounted above you, projecting sound downwards.
Gotcha. 7 around, 1 sub, 4 above.
Exactly. And having that full 7.1.4 monitoring setup is vital. It lets you accurately hear where you're placing sounds in that three-dimensional sphere.
You need to hear the height to mix the height.
Precisely. Without that kind of accurate integrated monitoring, you're kind of flying blind for a big part of the immersive mix, aren't you?
Yeah, guessing where things are overhead.
Right. You can't truly sculpt or check the spatial relationships properly. It's the difference between hoping it translates and knowing it translates.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So we know why Atmos is huge. The market demands it. And we know where we can do it effectively, Pro Tools Ultimate with its internal renderer. Now let's get into the how. You mentioned this template earlier. How can a template specifically help streamline getting an Atmos mix going?
Yeah, this is the really practical part. Our sources highlight this specific template, designed by a mixer who's like in the trenches delivering for the big streaming platforms.
So it's not theoretical, it's proven.
Absolutely. Battle-tested, refined on real-world, high-stakes projects.
Yeah.
This isn't just a bunch of tracks someone threw together.
Okay.
It's what the source calls a perfect starting point.
Yeah.
The whole design philosophy is practical efficiency. It's built to meet ODD specs right out of the gate.
ODD specs.
Online distribution delivery specifications. Basically, the rules the streamer set for how audio needs to be delivered.
Okay. So it's pre-configured for compliance.
Exactly. Proper stem prints, all the complex routing sorted, the downmix parts ready to go, monitoring settings calibrated, it's all there.
Wow.
And because it's been tested on actual shows, you know it works. Whether you're mixing a big Netflix series or doing your very first Atmos project.
It gives you a solid foundation.
A robust, reliable, compliant foundation. It saves you potentially hours, maybe even days, of fiddly setup and worrying if you've missed some spec requirement.
And that's the core promise, right? Streamlining the workflow.
That's the absolute promise, yeah.
Yeah.
Think about bypassing all that time you'd normally spend meticulously creating tracks, routing signals everywhere, checking specs.
Yeah, the setup can be daunting, especially with Atmos.
Totally. This template aims to give you that massive head start. You drop it in, and you can basically jump straight into the creative part, the actual mixing, focusing on the sound, the space.
Not the plumbing.
Exactly, not the plumbing. It boosts your productivity without cutting corners on precision or those all-important delivery specs.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts then. What's inside this template, tracks, routing?
What are the key parts? One thing you hear a lot about in Atmos is beds versus objects.
Right, that's fundamental. And the template handles it very clearly. Understanding beds versus objects is like step one for immersive mixing.
So what's the difference? Okay, so beds are more traditional. Think channel-based, like your stereo track or your 5.1 stems. They form the foundation, the consistent elements of the sound field.
Like background ambience, maybe? Or a music score bed.
Exactly. The canvas, as some people call it. In this template, you've got the standard beds: dialogue, DX, music, MX, and effects, FX. These handle sounds that fill the space more generally. Crowd noise, wide music elements, that sort of thing.
Okay, so beds are the base layer. What about objects?
Objects are where it gets really cool and really atmosy. Objects are individual sound elements that you can place and move anywhere in 3D space, dynamically, independent of fixed channels.
So like a specific sound effect, a helicopter flying over.
Perfect example. A helicopter, a bee buzzing around your head, maybe one specific line of dialogue you want to pinpoint coming from exactly that corner of the room, or even directly overhead.
Ah, okay, so you have precise control.
Total precision. You can automate their position, move them freely through the whole 3D sound sphere, and this template has specific object tracks set up for this. For dialogue, it includes 2 dedicated dialogue object tracks. The source mentions this as in case you want to pan to a specific channel-specific speaker.
So you could take like one word or one sound from a dialogue recording and place it exactly.
Precisely. Or move it. Maybe a character walks past. You could object pan just their footsteps, maybe taken from the production sound effects track. It gives you that pinpoint accuracy.
And for music, you mentioned music objects too.
Yeah, 5 dedicated music object tracks in this template. This gives you huge creative options. You can take individual parts of the score, a lead vocal, a synth melody, a specific drum hit, and treat them as objects. Pan them around, move them into space.
So the music isn't just a flatbed anymore.
Exactly. Parts of it can become dynamic elements within the immersive field. Adds incredible depth and interest. The template makes it easy to see what might work as a bed versus what could shine as an object.
That's really clear. Okay, so you've got your beds and objects sorted for the creative mix. But then there's the delivery side, getting the right files to the client, the platform.
Oh yeah, the deliverables. Crucial.
It's not just the main Atmos file, the ADM, is it? Platforms always want other stuff too.
Never just the ADM.
Yeah.
Yeah, OTT platforms, the streaming services, they almost always need legacy mixes as well. A 5.1 surround mix, definitely a stereo mix.
And the source mentioned even a web mix option.
Right, so you need versatility. You need to generate all these different formats, and they all need to be compliant and consistent.
How does the template handle that headache? Because that sounds complicated.
This is where it really earns its keep, I think. It tackles this directly with pre-configured print tracks for all these formats.
Print tracks, like recording the output.
Exactly. You record the final output of your mix onto dedicated tracks within the session. And the routing here is super smart. These print tracks for 5.1, stereo, web blank, they're fed directly from the Dolby Renderer.
Ah, okay, not just separate bounces.
No. They're derived from the main Atmos mix via dedicated DX, MX, and FX print tracks within the renderer's workflow. This ensures your 5.1 and stereo mixes aren't just approximations. They accurately reflect the processing, the levels, the automation of your immersive mix.
So consistency is baked in.
Absolutely. Quality and consistency across all formats.
Yeah.
And the huge efficiency gain here is that you're generating everything from one session.
Right. No need for separate mix passes for 5.1, then stereo?
Exactly. Which saves a ton of time, obviously, but also drastically cuts down the risk of errors. You know, phase issues, level mismatches that can creep in when you're doing manual conversions or separate mixes.
Yeah, I can see how that would streamline things massively. Takes a load off your mind, too.
Totally. You focus on the immersive mix, knowing the down mixes are being handled correctly based on the template's setup.
So how does it manage that routing internally? Feeding the renderer, getting the prints. You mentioned renderer groups.
Yeah, renderer groups are key here for organization. The template uses groups for dialogue, DX, effects, FX, and music MX. Think of these as master controls for each main stem within the Atmos mix.
Okay.
These groups then feed into your 5.1 print tracks. It's a hierarchical structure. It lets you manage the overall level and maybe do final stem processing before it hits that 5.1 print.
Gotcha. Control at the stem level.
Right. And then from that 5.1 mix, the template handles the fold down to stereo. It uses the default Dolby downmixer settings, which are generally designed to be pretty transparent.
And there was something about limiting on the downmix.
Yes, crucial point. The source notes there's some limiting over here, specifically on the stereo downmix. This isn't just random, it's standard pro practice.
Why limit just the stereo?
Because stereo delivery has different loudness requirements and headroom constraints than immersive or even 5.1, this limiting manages the peaks specifically for stereo, making sure it hits platform specs and sounds good on everything from TVs to phones without unexpected clipping or distortion.
Prevents those nasty overs.
Exactly. Keeps it clean and dynamically controlled for that specific format.
Okay, let's go even deeper. The actual folders in Pro Tools. You said they're set up for 7.1.2 routing. Let's break down the dialog folder, the DX folder. What's going on there?
Right, the DX folder, it's a 7.1.2 routing folder, meaning anything dialogue related gets funneled through here and distributed across that full 7.1.2 sound field, surrounds and overheads.
So main dialogue, voiceover. What else?
Yep, lead dialogue, VO, but also things like FUDs, that's background crowd sounds, Walla.
Group chatter.
Exactly, and PFSCAP production sound effects.
Oh.
Those sounds recorded on set that are tied to the action, like footsteps, door closes, things that are part of the scene's reality, all routed through this DX folder.
And there's processing on the main R track for that folder.
Yes, some very specific, important processing. First up, a basic fat filter EQ. The key settings mentioned are an 85 Hz low cut and a 15 kHz high cut.
Why those specific frequencies for dialogue?
Really important for clarity, especially in immersive. That 85 Hz low cut cleans up so much potential mud. Low frequency rumble, Mic handling noise, HVAC noise. In stereo, it might be okay, but spread across multiple speakers, especially the LFE, if routed incorrectly, it just builds up and clouds everything.
So it keeps the dialogue crisp?
Exactly. And the 15K hertz high cut just takes off any unnecessary top-end harshness or sibilance. Makes it sit cleanly, less fatiguing to listen to.
Makes sense. What else?
After the EQ, there's a transparent perimeter. This is key. It's set with a true peak ceiling of -2.2 dB.
-2.2 dB, true peak. Why so specific? And true peak?
True peak limiting is absolutely essential for streaming delivery. Regular peak meters can miss intersample peaks moments, where the reconstructed audio signal between samples actually goes above 0 dBFS, even if the samples themselves don't show it.
Ah, so it can distort on playback, even if it looks okay in the DAB.
Precisely. True peak limiters prevent that. The -2.2 dB ceiling is a common spec for many platforms like Netflix, ensuring you meet their delivery requirements and avoid any downstream distortion. The template sets this up for you.
Gotcha. Takes the guesswork out. And where does this processed dialogue signal go?
This main DxO folder is fed from the rear renderer, meaning it's correctly routed into the Dolby Atmos rendering engine for proper spatialization within that 7.1.2 environment.
Okay, super detailed for dialogue. Are the effects FX and music MX folders set up similarly?
Very similar logic, yeah. The FX folder is also fed from the rear renderer, set up for 7.1.2 routing. Gives you that dedicated space for all your sound effects, ready for immersive placement.
Ambiences, hard effects, Foley.
All of it. And the Music MX folder, again, 7.1.2 routing, fed from its respective group. And crucially, as we said, it houses the main music tracks and those 5 music object tracks.
Right, for placing specific musical elements in 3D space.
Exactly. It allows the music to breathe and become part of the immersive world, not just a flat backdrop.
What about reverb? Creating that sense of space is so important. How does an immersive template handle reverb effectively across all those channels?
Good question. Reverb needs careful handling in Atmos. This template includes 2 5.0 reverb tracks.
5.0, not 7.1.2.
Right, 5.0 initially. But the source says they are smartly routed to make it 7.1.2. This is clever. It likely means they're using OSUNs and returns, maybe specific plugins, to take that 5.0 reverb and expand it, diffuse it realistically into the side, rear, and overhead channels.
Ah, so it doesn't just sound like a flat 5.0 reverb floating in a 7.1.2 space.
Exactly. That can really break immersion. This smart routing ensures the reverb tails feel like they belong in the full 3D environment, wrapping around the listener consistently. And this applies to sends from both the FX and music tracks.
Creates a cohesive acoustic space.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now the 0.1 channel, the LFE. How do you get that powerful low-end impact without it just being a muddy mess?
The LFE channel gets special treatment too. The routing is direct. LF is routed to the LF channel itself, as the source puts it, keeps it isolated.
And processing. Basic high-cut filters are essential, obviously, to define what frequencies actually go to the sub. You don't want dialogue fundamentals down there.
Right. Keep it clean.
Keep it clean. And significantly, the template uses a Pro Subharmonic plugin. This is cool tech. It doesn't just boost existing days. It intelligently synthesizes new, low-frequency harmonics below what's already there.
So it adds deeper rumble.
Exactly. It creates that really low, visceral rumble you can feel, especially for things like explosions, impacts, deep drones. But it does it in a controlled way. Adds that gut-punching weight without making the main mix muddy, and helps hit that impact while managing overall loudness levels.
Very cool. Okay, beyond the main tracks and routing, what other features does this template offer? The sources mentioned things like VCAs?
Yeah, VCAs, voltage-controlled amplifiers. Essential for managing big sessions. They let you control the volume of a whole group of tracks, like all your dialogue tracks, or all background effects from a single fader, without messing up the individual track automation or sense.
Ah, like a remote control for groups of faders.
Kind of, yeah. Super useful for quick overall balance adjustments in a complex mix. Makes life much easier.
And renderer I/O settings.
Also critical. Input-output configuration. This is about telling Pro Tools how to talk to the Dolby Atmos renderer correctly. Mapping your beds, your objects to the right inputs on the renderer, setting up your monitoring outputs so what you hear actually matches the 7.1.4 layout.
Stuff that can be tricky to set up manually.
Very tricky and easy to get wrong. The template having this pre-configured just removes another big setup hurdle. Ensures accuracy from the start.
What about those real-world workflow tips mentioned? Those sounded interesting. Like routing for near-field music?
Yeah, these are gold because they come from practical experience. The template offers guidance, maybe even specific routing options for handling near-field music and ambiances.
What does near field mean here?
It means mixing considerations for when the listener isn't in a big cinema, but maybe in a smaller room, a living room setup, or even headphones. How do you make sure those immersive music and ambient elements still sound spacious and effective, but don't become overwhelming or lose clarity in a smaller environment or binaural playback?
Making sure it translates well everywhere.
Exactly. Translation is key.
What about multiple languages? That's a huge deal for streaming content.
Another big one, yeah. The template includes strategies for managing multiple languages or dubs. This might be more than just separate track groups. It could involve clever routing within the Atmos renderer itself, allowing you to easily switch between, say, the original English dialogue and a German dub and hear instantly how it sits in the immersive mix.
You can A/B different languages quickly within the Atmos context.
Potentially, yeah. Makes checking localization and mix consistency across languages way more efficient, crucial for international delivery.
And finally, headphones, binaural settings.
Super important since so many people listen on headphones now. The Dolby Renderer automatically creates a binaural version of your Atmos mix, trying to simulate that 3D experience over stereo headphones.
Right.
But the template offers tips or specific settings related to binaural. This could be about optimizing how objects translate, maybe specific limiting for the binaural output, just ensuring that headphone listeners still get a really compelling sense of space and object placement, making sure your immersive work still shines through two speakers.
Wow, okay. That covers a lot of ground. So, pulling it all together, what does this template really mean for someone listening, whether they're experienced or just starting with Atmos?
It means you're getting more than just tracks. You're getting a system. A proven, comprehensive system built on real-world experience.
Yeah, it's clearly designed to solve problems.
Exactly. This Dolby Atmos template is built to give you that massive head start. Doesn't matter if it's a web series, a short film, or you're aiming for those complex Netflix delivery specs. It hits the common pain points.
Saves you from reinventing the wheel every time.
Totally. All that intricate routing, the multiple deliverables, the compliance checks, it's pre-built, optimized. It frees up so much time and, frankly, mental energy.
So you can focus on the creative side.
Focus on the art of the mix,
Yeah.
spatial storytelling. It's a practical, strategic tool to boost your workflow.
And you actually mentioned people can get this template.
Yes,
Yep.
That's the really great part. You can actually download this exact template we've been dissecting.
The one with the 7.1.4 routing, the print masters, the stems, all ready to go.
All ready to go. Pre-routed, 7.1.4 compatible, print masters set up, stems organized. You literally drop it into a Pro Tools Ultimate session, and you can start adding your audio and mixing.
Wow. Where can people find it?
Just head over to the link in the description for this deep dive. Click that and you can grab the template right now. It's designed to just work.
Transform the workflow from minute one.
That's the idea. And it's priced really affordably. When you think about the hours, potentially days of setup time, it saves you.
It pays for itself pretty quickly.
Easily. That's time you get back to actually mix, refine the sound, make it better. It's a smart investment in your efficiency and the quality of your output.
And what if someone needs something even more specific, like super custom for their unique workflow?
There's an option for that too. If you need a completely custom template built to your exact specs, just drop a comment in the comment section below the video or description, and that's something that can be explored.
Fantastic. Well, this has been incredibly illuminating. Thank you for walking us through all of that.
My pleasure.
A really deep dive into Dolby Atmos, mixing in Pro Tools, and especially how this template can make it so much more accessible. We really hope this has shed light on what can seem like a complex topic and giving you some practical takeaways.
Yeah, hopefully it's demystified it a bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, thinking about all this, it really raises an interesting question for the future, doesn't it?
Oh, what's that?
Well, as immersive audio keeps evolving, especially with things like spatial computing, AR, VR, how much further can object-based mixing go? Beyond just fixed speaker layouts.
You mean like truly interactive audio?
Exactly. Imagine audio experiences that adapt in real time to where you look, what you do in a game, maybe even your physical surroundings, where the soundscape isn't just pre-mixed, but generated or adapted dynamically using these object principles.
Wow. That opens up a whole new world of creative possibilities, doesn't it? Sound that truly responds.
It's a fascinating frontier we're just starting to glimpse. Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. The future is sounding Very spatial. So we really encourage you, follow us, subscribe here to the Deep Dive for more discussions like this. And hey, if anything we talked about today sparked a question or you had one of those aha moments, send us a message on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps next time we could even build on this and dive into something really specific like advanced object-based sound effects design for, say, a web series, how to really push the creative boundaries.
Could be interesting.
You'll see. But for now, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, happy mixing.